Hello class. Today I'm going to be explaining the behavioral approach theory in my presentation. The behavioral approach focuses exclusively on what leaders do and how they act. In shifting the study of leadership to leader behaviors, the behavioral approach expanded the research of leadership to include the actions of leaders toward followers in various contexts. Researchers studying the behavioral approach determined that leadership is composed of two general kinds of behaviors: task behaviors and relationship behaviors. Task behaviors facilitate goal accomplishment. They help group members to achieve their objectives. Relationship behaviors help followers feel comfortable with themselves, with each other, and with the situation in which they find themselves. Two main research conducted on behavioral leadership. The first one was the Ohio State studies. A group of researchers at Ohio State believed that results of studying leadership as a personality trait seemed fruitless and decided to analyze how individuals acted when they were leading a group or an organization. Researchers found that followers' responses on the questionnaire clustered around two general types of leader behaviors: initiating structure and consideration. Initiating structure behaviors are essentially task behaviors, including such acts as organizing work, giving structure to the work context, defining role responsibilities, and scheduling work activities. Consideration behaviors are essentially relationship behaviors and include building respect and trust and liking between leaders and followers. The second study is the University of Michigan studies. The University of Michigan were also exploring leadership behavior, giving special attention to the impact of leaders' behaviors on the performance of small groups. The program of research at Michigan identified two types of leader behaviors: employee orientation and production orientation. Employee orientation is the behavior of leaders who approach subordinate with strong human relations, emphasize they take an interest in workers as human beings, value their individuality, and give special attention to their personal needs. Employee orientation is very similar to the cluster of behaviors identified as consideration in the Ohio State. Production orientation consists of leadership behaviors that stress the technical and production aspects of a job from orientation. Workers are viewed as means for getting work accomplished. Production orientation parallels the initiating structure cluster found in the Ohio studies. Just like other theories, this theory also has a strength and weakness, which are explained in the advantages and disadvantages. The first advantage is it has successfully applied classical and operant conditioning to its theories. Systematic desensitization is based on classical conditioning and is useful for treating phobias. It also uses scientific methods of research because the experiments are the objective, measurable, and observable. An example of this is Bandora's Bobo doll study of aggression. One of the disadvantages would be focuses too much on the nurture side of the nature-nurture debate. It suggests that all behavior is learned, but cognitive and biological elements have been proved to affect behavior. Ethical issue raised by using animals in experiments. This is because animals cannot consent to take part and are unable to withdraw. An example of the behaviorist animal study is Pavlov's dogs, which led to classical conditioning principles being developed. An example may help explain how the behavioral approach works. Imagine two college classrooms on the first day of class, and two professors with entirely different styles. Professor Smith comes to class, introduces herself, takes attendance, goes over the syllabus, explains the first assignment, and dismisses the class. Professor Joan comes to class and, after introducing herself and handing out the syllabus, tries to help the students to get to know one another by having each of the students describe a little about themselves, their major, and their favorite non-academic activities. The leadership behaviors of Professor Smith and Joan are quite different. Here, the preponderance of what Professor Smith does could be labeled task behavior, and the majority of what Professor Joan does could be labeled as relationship behaviors. The behavioral approach provides a way to inform the professors about the differences in their behaviors, depending on the response of the students to their leadership behaviors. The professors may want to change their behavior to improve their teaching on the first day class. The theoretic leadership model, if we link this to the um, if we link this one to this theory, we first need to understand it. So here is a bit explanation about it. This theoretic leadership model, as you can see, is made up of three major things. The first one is who a leader is, the second one is what a leader does, and the third one is why a leader leads. The first one focuses on the identity of the leader. The second one delves into the motivation of leader. The third one, this involves the measures, outcomes of a leader. In my opinion, I believe that um, all all the leadership models and theories should be dealt with and with this triadic leadership model, because this one helps you to understand how this works, to understand who that leader is, to understand his leadership skills, to understand how much that person is able to give and to lead and to deliver and so on. So I believe the theoretic leadership model is something to be made for every single project you have, for every single activity you want to do. You need to identify who is going to do what and which ones can you depend on, which of your team members have the ability, what they can do, and why they will be leading that activity or that project. Overall, the behavioral approach offers a means of assessing in general way the behaviors of leaders, It reminds leaders that their impact on others occurs through the tasks they perform, as well as in the relationships they create. The behavioral approach applies to nearly everything a leader does. It is an approach that is used as a model by many training and development companies to teach managers how to improve their effectiveness and organizational productivity. The behavioral approach is valuable because it underscores the importance of the two core dimensions of leadership: behavior, task, and relationship. Thank you very much for listening, and thank you for your time, and good luck with yours.